Oh, okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
My question is there such a thing as non-denominational Islam? And in a world where there are so many very diverse and at times highly polarized opinions as to what Islam is, what defines a believer, and how they should believe, is there any room for a person to find that own path for themselves, I guess, and going based off something that you mentioned earlier, to still rely on valid and recognized sources? Is there any room to do that?
Valid and recognized what?
Like sources.
Sources,
Yeah.
okay. Now, your first question, is there such a thing as non-denominational Islam? Well, first we have to think about it. We are living 1400 years after the Prophet. We were not there to witness what really happened, what Rasulullah really said, correct? What the verses of the Quran exactly meant, how Rasulullah interpreted the various verses of the Quran. We were not there. This is a long time ago. So, living 1400 years after, how am I able to understand the true Islam and how the true life of the Prophet and what his true message was? The only way I could understand that is through the historical accounts of narrators, correct? Now the problem is when you go to the historical accounts, you'll see different accounts. Each denomination, each sect, each school of thought is telling you a certain way of Rasulullah. You come to the Shia, they tell you Rasulullah prayed like this. You go to the Sunnis, he prayed like this. You go to the Zaydis, something else. You go to the Sufis. So at the end of the day, if you do not embrace a single denomination, or if you do not consider yourself a follower of that denomination, how are you going to understand the true Islam? At the end of the day, the Shias, they have their hadiths. The Sunnis have their hadith. Every school of thought and denomination has their hadith. And they're all trying to understand the life of Rasulullah, the Quran, and the teachings of Rasulullah. So it's not really possible to basically say, I'm not going to choose a denomination. Okay, so how are you going to pray? Either like this, or you can do half and half. And you'll be a sushi, like some people call it. Half Sunni, half Shia, sushi, some people call that. So, for example, Sunnis, they say the true Khalifa and Imam after the Prophet, successor, was Abu Bakr. We say no, it was Ali. Okay, I don't want to choose any of these denominations. Well, you have to choose something at the end of the day. You can't just stare and just stay there. So sometimes it's a yes or no question. You have to choose. I mean, it's either this or this. So when you say, I don't want to choose a denomination, it's not about the terms that we're disagreeing. It's about reality. It's about the substance that we're disagreeing about. You could call yourself whatever you want. It doesn't matter. The point is, how are you going to practice your religion? Which teachings of Rasulullah are you going to follow? The ones that we narrate or the ones that they narrate? And sometimes they collide with each other. They come in complete contradiction. So you have to choose at the end of the day. And if you chose this, that means khalas, you follow this denomination, even if you don't want to call yourself Shia, you don't want to call yourself Sunni. But in reality, you're following the ways of the Shia. That's what Allah wants from you. That's what the intellect tells you. You don't have to call yourself Shia Sunnah. The name doesn't matter. What matters is how you pray, how you worship God, how you understand religion. And this, as I said, there's many forms of it based on the historical analysis and accounts and reports. So you're going to have to choose one at the end of the day. You can't say, I accept all. There's contradictions between them. You can't accept all. You accept this and this. Doesn't make sense. Prophet prayed one way. How can you accept all? So it doesn't make sense. It's a logical situation that you say, I accept all, or I don't accept all. If you don't accept all, how are you going to learn how to pray? How are you going to learn how to worship God? Where are you going to get your teachings from? We were not there. If you're there back then, you saw the Prophet, you don't need anyone. You saw with your own eyes, you heard with your own ears. You don't need anyone. Now we are in desperate need because we are in a time that's 1400 years after Rasulullah. Does that make the answer clear? Any other questions about this? If you need more clarification. What's the other solution? You tell us.
It sounds like everybody has their own interpretation, and if that going based off that, and if everybody's going to have their own contradictions with one another, what I'm saying is, could somebody not make their own interpretation for themselves?
Now, see, when I say each one has their own interpretations, when you bring an interpretation of Islam, of the Imams, of the Prophet's life, of the Quran, you always have to have proof. We can't just say, I understand this from the verse. You understand this, you bring proof. We always, in any academic discussion, if you don't bring proof, your personal opinion is, with all due respect, it has absolutely no worth in an academic session. Your worth is based on how much proof you can bring. For example, my interpretation of prayers, that Rasulullah said this. My interpretation of this verse is that God is saying this. Okay, what's your proof? Bring us proof. Bring us historical analysis, historical reports that are authentic. Bring us logical, intellectual proofs that we could accept. If you bring proof, yeah, you could follow your own way. But you have to have proof. That's why when you go to a seminary, where this is where they have all the religious, it's all about what? It's all about debate and bringing proof. So yes, each group is going to have their own interpretation. This is how human beings are. They differ in understanding everything. I can say a sentence now and different people will understand different things. This is how we are. That's why there's difference in opinion in every field of knowledge. Every physics, chemistry, science, medicine. You won't have one field where everyone just agrees. That's not how we human beings are. We always have our own interpretations, our own ways of understanding things. So each school of thought has their own interpretation, but what you have to do when you sit and you read, you have to see which one makes the most sense. Anyone can give his opinion. That's not what it's about. It's about bringing the proof and showing that my opinion is the right one. When I say Imam Ali is the Khalifa, I have to have proof, convincing proof. When you say Abu Bakr is the Khalifa, you have to have convincing proof. Your job is to sit, and my job is to sit. I look at both debates, I look at both writings, I look at both proofs, I look at both of them, and I make a judgment, a fair judgment. Which one makes more sense? Which one is more rational? And then I choose. So it's all about choosing what makes more sense. And this is up to you, of course. I'm not going to tell you to be Shia. I'm not going to be Sunni. I'm going to tell you, if you're an educated man and you read and if you know how to do your research, go and buy the books, go online, and read both sides of the argument. And you make your fair judgment. And each school of thought, of course, claims that at the end of the day, you should choose us. But that's your decision to make. Many people, they started on this journey, and at least we Shia claim, alhamdulillah, they were able to conclude that the Shia school of thought is the school of thought that makes more sense, that's closer to God, that seems closer to the traditions that all Muslims narrate. Because there are some traditions from the Prophet that all Muslims accept. It's not controversial. So those ones will help us the most because we accept them and you accept them. So that's why anytime we want to prove something, I have to use something that he accepts, not something that I only accept. This is the best and strongest proof. I say in your books, like a Christian, I tell him, the Bible says this. I use the Bible against him. This is proof. If I say the Quran says you Christians are wrong, this is, useless. He's going to say, I don't even accept the Quran to begin with. So when I speak with for example, a Sunni or anyone else, I tell him, your books, Bukhari, it says this. And this proves that I'm right. And if that's convincing to you, you follow it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was, I guess I was just trying to find, your opinion in contrast to those people who, say they offer you an ultimatum. It's believe us or don't believe at all.
I never tell anyone to become Shia. Because, like I said, anytime you choose your belief, you have to be convinced. If I tell you become Shia and you're not convinced, there's no point. There's no point of adding a follower who is not convinced. We need strong believing followers that are convinced that their belief is the right one. That's why I never tell anyone be Muslim. All I do is I show you the way. I'll show you Islam is the religion the correct religion. You want to accept, it's up to you. I'll show you that according to my understanding, Shia is right. Shi'ism is right. You want to accept it, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you choose us and we could still be friends, even if you're not Shia, even if you're not Muslim. All I'm telling you is this is what's right, and I'll bring you the proof. It's all about the proof. That's what we have to look for. What makes more sense.
Jazakallah khair.
May Allah bless you.